Welcome back, Work County Elementary School teachers. Here we have the data overview for your school. If you will, please view this prior to our first data team meeting for this new school year. The purpose of this data overview is to examine the current strengths and weaknesses for student learning at Worth County Elementary School, which will assist us in planning units for the coming school year. Now we will look at the past 3 years of CRCT data due to the milestones data not being available yet. As soon as the milestones data is available, we will incorporate that into our data overview. For this, we're going to look at the demographics at WCES, the CRCT scores, and some questions that might guide us as to what's next. So let's start with some demographic comparisons. You can see here in this chart that the student demographics for Georgia shows a large percentage of students are in the black and white population, with 13% being in the Hispanic populations. For our school district, it is very similar to the state, with the black and white population being the largest two percentages in our school district, 36% and 58% respectively. Notice that you have a 3% in both multiracial and Hispanic for our school district. Now let's look at Worth County Elementary School for this past year. Again, the demographics for our school are very similar to the demographics for our district and the state, with the black and white populations being the highest percentage, 33% and 59% respectively. When looking at the total enrollment for Worth County Elementary School over the past 3 years, we can see a decrease in the total enrollment from 764 down to 738. Let's look at the race or ethnic group populations at Worth County Elementary School over the past 3 years. We see the white population and the black population in all 3 years are represent the most students, with the rest of the students being multiracial, Hispanic, Asian Pacific Islander, American Indian, no ASEAN. So looking at 3 subgroups of populations at Worth County Elementary School, we're going to look at the economically disadvantaged, I'll document that as ED, limited English proficient, which would be our ELL students, and students with disabilities, and we'll indicate that with SWD. If you look at this, you can see that over the 3 years, all 3 of these subgroup populations, there was a decline from 2011-12 to 2012-13, and then there was an increase for the following year, back to about what it was originally. So let's look at some observations from the data we just looked at. Total enrollment at Worth County Elementary School has decreased over 3 years. The demographics of Worth County Elementary School are closely related to those of the district and the state. Over the past 3 years, the black population has increased, while most of the other populations have decreased. All subgroup populations show a decrease from 2011-12 to 2012-13 school years, yet an increase the following school year, 2013-14. So let's move on and talk about our Worth County Elementary School CRCT scores. So if we look at all content areas for the entire school, this graph represents meets and exceeds standards from all content areas. from the last data we had, which was 2013-14. And what we see here in all content areas for meet and exceed standards is that Worth County Elementary School really does have about the same percentage of meets and exceeds standards as the district and the state level. The one that I noticed that stood out was math. It is approximately 5% less than the state, and it's 4/10 less. So it's actually less than the district and the state. So let's look at math. In grades 3 through 5, over these 3 years, let's look at this chart. It shows us the percent of students that do not meet proficiency or did not meet proficiency on the CRCT over the 3 years period. And what we see here is from 2011-12 to 2013-14, we see a decrease in the percentage of students that do not meet proficiency standards in mathematics, which is a good thing. We also see the same type of decrease happening on the district level and the state level. Now let's look at meets. Looking at this data, this again is the school district and state CRCT mathematics scores over 3 years, and these represent the percentage of students that meet standards. So looking at these, we go from 26% meets down to 20% meets. So that is a decrease in meets. And what we see at the district level is the proficiency level stays about the same, as well as the state level stays about the same. So that might be something we want to see, like what is going on with these meets percentages decreasing. Now let's take a look at those percentage of students that exceeded proficiency on the CRCT mathematics over the 3 years of our data here. And what we see here is the students that exceed proficiency at the school level has actually increased. So that might be an indicator as to why we saw in the last slide the meets. Maybe the meets, we'll have to dig down deeper and correlate that data. We see a increase on the district level and an increase on the state level as well in exceeds proficiency in mathematics over the 3 years. The next slide shows a graph of math scores for the entire school over the 3-year period. And what we see here is some pretty good news. We see a decline in do not meet from 26% down to 20%, which shows that, you know, Worth County Elementary School went from 75% approximately to about 77%, all the way to approximately 80% that met and exceeded in mathematics. Looking at the CRCT scores by grade levels, we see 5th grade has meet and or exceeds almost approximately 90%. You have about, let's see, 65–70% in 4th grade who met or exceeded standards, and about 80% who met or exceeded in 3rd grade, which is really good. So let's take these CRCT scores and break them down into subgroups. We're going to look at three groups. The first group we're going to look at is the economically disadvantaged students. That's the low socioeconomical level students. And if you look at these over 3 years, the red indicates meets and the green indicates exceeds. And what we see is a decrease, it's a slight decrease in those that did not meet, that are in the subgroup economically disadvantaged. There is a slight decrease, and we want to make sure that we continue that trend. Looking at our ESOL population, we don't have any data for 11-12, but looking at 2 years of data, the ELLs, we're definitely meeting their needs. The last data, 2013-14, shows 0% of ELLs did not meet. Now, students with disabilities. Let's look at these. So, over a 3-year period, we're looking at students with disabilities. In the exceeds, we see over the 3-year period an increase in students in mathematics that exceed standards. We also see in the meets that there was a little drop in the 2nd year, but by the 3rd year, we are back up and above that previous year. You notice that all of our do not meet, they are also on the decline in this subgroup. So some observations we can make from this data is the percentage of Fort County Elementary School students that meet or exceed standards in all content areas is about the same as the district and state, except in mathematics is a little lower, but still good. Fort County Elementary students who meet or exceed standards in mathematics has increased over 3 years. Now let's look at the data from the subgroups. 30% of our economically disadvantaged students did not meet standards, in math over the 3 years. So even though we did improve that percentage, we need to keep looking for strategies to lower that percentage even more. We had 80 to 100% of the ELLs meet or exceed standards in math the past 2 years. And our students with disabilities show a decrease in the percentage of students who did not meet, with last year at 33%. This is a good thing that the percentage of students who do not meet is decreasing, and we still want to work to find strategies to help these students even make that percentage of do not meets lower. So the questions that you need to think about prior to our regular data team meetings we have at the beginning of the year are these questions here. We're going to revisit these when we have our data team meetings, so try to have some type of commentary on or ideas for answers to these questions so that we can brainstorm these and start our year off right with our planning. So the questions would be, how can we continue to increase the number of students who meet or exceed standards moving forward? We want to keep increasing those numbers of students who are meeting or exceeding standards. So what strategies can we use to increase the percentage of subgroup students that meet or exceed standards? We got to find some strategies. Which standards represent the most challenge for our students? Yes, we'll need to dig down deeper into our data. We can do that with our Georgia SLDS when we get together with our data team meetings. And, when we find these areas that are challenging for our students, what are your needs as teachers? What do you need to assist you with teaching these standards so that we can help students master these standards? Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys in our data team meeting to start our planning for the new year. Thanks for watching.